Hello, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good
Ayan.
evening.
Magandang gabi, magandang gabi. Welcome, fellow trainers, to another engaging session of our, sabay-sabay po,
Usapan.
Wait. We have to do this perfectly. To our another engaging session of our 1, 2, 3. Usapang
training
at
at
iba
iba
pa.
So I gave you 99% for that. All right. So my name is June Roy, past president of PSTD and currently serving as the governance advisor and internal auditor. Also working as OD head or OD consulting head of Nomura Research Institute. What about my fellow trainers here? Okay, kasamang Ed. Introduce yourself,
Okay.
please.
Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat at welcome to the 9th episode of Usapan Training at iba pa. Ako po si Edwin Hebreo. Ako po ay miyembro ng PSTD Board of Trustees at CEO ng Executive Corporation, a human resource and organization development consulting company. Okay, AM.
Hello, good evening mga katropa. AM Villaluz po, PSTD BOT Secretary and Vistaprint Learning Manager. Hi, Pearl.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, world. Good evening, Philippines. Ako po si Pearl Martinez. I'm the Global L&D Manager for SGS & Co. and at the same time, Chair of the Membership Committee. So, pass it on to Louie, Jen.
Louie Banta, gandang gabi, blessed Sunday to everyone. CEO po, Chief Trainer ng LJNB at loyal supporter ng PSTD.
Ayan.
All right. So welcome mga katropa at fellow trainers. Kung kayo po ay perfect attendance, magmula doon sa first up to the 9, pa-heart naman po dyan. And if this is your third or more to participate, oy, may nag-heart, no? Pa-like naman, no? Marami tayong mga suki dito na nakikita. I can name some of the few. Madami sila. Si Nelson, lalo na, no? Member ng ating publication team. All right. So before we start and deep dive into our topic for today, alamin muna natin ano kaya mga ganap at magaganap pa sa PSTD. So ating tunghayan ang balitang PSTD with Louie Banta.
Ang
Louie,
daming
pasok.
nangyayari sa Philippine Society for Talent Development, and as we are waiting for the posters or the slides of our upcoming events to be flashed, no? 4 po ang ipopromote natin. Kulang pa itong 4 pero this is our priority upcoming events. Today's April 16, so that means 11 days from now ang ating April hybrid tipanan. That's April 27. Please do not miss this. 1 to 5 in the afternoon. We encourage you to join us face-to-face sa Discovery Primea Makati. Ang title natin, The Talent Development Professional as a Preferred Internal Consultant. Ang magbibigay ng mga payo at ng mga tips ay walang iba kundi ang inyong dalawang host din dito sa Usapang Training, no? At we will base it on our decades of experience working with different client companies. Bakit nga ba sila naghahanap ng external consultant kung pwede namang i-build ang capability ng mga internal talent development professionals? See you 11 days from now. Please register po. At you may use the QR code. Punta kayo sa Facebook page ng PSTD. Yan. Nagbabalik din ang ating twice or every 2 years.
Bigyan ka na ba ng mama mo?
Gawad Maestro Awards, no? Nagbabalik. Tayo po ay tumatanggap na ng application at saka nominations at malapit na rin po ang deadline. The deadline is April 28. That is 12 days from now. Just a day after our April Tipanan. There are 8 categories for this year's awards. For more information, please go to www.pstd.org or sa Facebook page ulit ng PSTD. Yan. Dalawang mangyayari magkasunod na araw, ha? 27 April Tipanan, 28 deadline. ng submission ng Gawad Maestro. Sa May naman, o medyo malayo-layo ng konti, May 30, ang ating pangatlong ganap, Third Talent Development Summit. Learn trends, challenges, realities, discover strategies, tools, and best practices, and collaborate with other Filipino L&D professionals. Ito naman ay sa May 30. Yan, no? From 8 to 5. And of course, ang pinaka-inaaba-abangan, ang pinaka-climax, no, ng lahat, ang ating 48th National Convention. Take note, Boracay. Tayo pupunta. Last time tayo nasa Bora, 2016. So after 7 years, no, magbabalik tayo. See you there, ha? Kaya may reason tayong mas magpaganda ng mga katawan, no? Para may beach attire ka na, marami ka pang lessons from our PSTD 48th National Convention with the team breakthrough, conquering limitless possibilities. Yan lang muna. See you 27 April for April Tea Panel.
Alright. Thank you, Louie. Akala ko artista yung nandoon eh. Ogie Alcacid na Ogie Alcacid. Alright. So see you in all of those events, everyone. And tonight is a continuation of what we had the previous one, which is about ADDIE. So umpisan natin doon sa unang elemento ng ADDIE, which is the analysis, no? And as we announced, this is about tips and tricks on how to do TNA or training needs analysis, which is the A on the ADDIE. But tanungin muna natin, no? Bakit ba kailangan natin ng tama or proper TNA? And what do we mean by doing a proper TNA? Perhaps Ed can help us out on answering that first question, no? What do we mean by a proper TNA? Doon muna tayo to set the context, no, of our conversation about tips and tricks later on.
So, pag may proper, ibig sabihin may improper, no? I think that the key difference between proper and improper training needs analysis is that it's a proper TNA is well planned out. Merong kang training needs analysis plan na ginawa, no? At hindi ka nagbase lang sa isang
Right.
Wala yata si Ed.
Nawala si Ed. Ibig sabihin, just to Ed, yeah, just we can continue that, no? So if you might want to
So
continue.
I'd like to kick off
Ayun.
kanya-kanya pong share ng ng
Ayun pa pala. All right.
Nawawala ka, Ed.
Sige, Ed,
sorry.
Putol ka.
Oo.
Okay. Go on.
Alam nyo na yung problema natin dito sa Pilipinas. Ayan. So, pag sinabing proper, kita ba yung aking
Kita,
slide?
yes.
Pag sinabing proper training needs analysis, yun nga, meron kang structure at nakabase yung strategy sa kung ano ba yung gusto mong malaman, ano? So there are 4 kinds that you can look at. Normative needs are needs that are based on some standard changes in the organization brought about by new procedures, new technology, nagpa-ISO certified kayo, so may mga new practices. Organizational naman, ay strategic plan, so you have to ask if there are new strategies or changes in the organizational strategies, may mga competencies ba na kailangang matutunan ng mga tao, ma-demonstrate in order to contribute to organizational strategy achievement. Pagdating naman sa demonstrated, hindi pwedeng i-survey lang yan eh. Okay? You're looking at performance gaps, no, as reflected in the performance appraisal, pero may qualifier. Ang assumption natin doon, yung performance appraisal mo ay hindi generic at naka-tailor fit doon sa roles ng mga tao. Otherwise, baka hindi siya ganun ka-useful. Ngayon, yung paborito ng lahat ay yung survey. No? Training needs analysis survey. At hindi po masama ang survey. Okay, hindi masama ang survey, pero kapag hindi tama ang mga tanong, siyempre wrong information leads to bad decision. So yun po yung ang aking kasagutan doon sa ano ba yung proper at ano yung improper na TNA.
Ayun.
Good.
Right. Thank you, Ed. So in short, if I got it right, kailangan natin ng proper TNA para ma-identify natin yung talagang needs, whether that needs is only felt or talagang yun yung talagang needs ng organization. And as Miggy mentioned, ma-align din natin yung needs sa organizational requirements or needs. No? So maraming salamat, Ed. Pero ang tanong, right? Bakit mahalaga na masunod natin yung proseso, no? So one of the things na nangyayari kasi,
Kala ko ano eh.
it's about distinguishing between analysis sa assessment. So ang akala natin minsan yung assessment, yun na yung TNA. So may kaibahan pala yung analysis at saka assessment, at importante yung kaalamang ito for us to really do a proper TNA, right? So AM, would you like to shed light on this?
Sure. So we often see those terms, no, needs assessment, needs analysis, and it's used interchangeably. So very simple visual lang na nakaka-explain ano ba yung difference between a needs assessment and needs analysis. So sa needs assessment, you can see it's a pair of binoculars. So when you use binoculars, it allows you to scan, right, the horizon. So you're looking at the big picture and you're kind of looking in terms of performance. Ano ba yung factors that are affecting performance? Ito pala, ito. So nakita mo, right? And once you've identified, because that's what the needs assessment will do, it will identify. Then you zoom in, right? Then kaya magnifying glass yung gamit dito ng imagery, no? You zoom in to analyze, to look at the causes or root cause of the gaps that you've identified. Now, baka follow-up question, and I saw some questions also in chat, no? Are there templates we can use or maybe what are frameworks we can use para tama talaga yung needs assessment natin, para tama rin yung magiging analysis natin later on. And a very, very simple framework you can use and is something called Gilbert's 6 boxes, which is sometimes called the behavior engineering model. So, ang daming names, no, mula pa last week or 2 weeks ago, si paring ADDIE, Sam, Kirkpatrick, ganyan, lahat lumabas. So, Thomas Gilbert is often called the founder of human performance technology. Anong sabi niya? Sabi niya, pag tinitignan mo yung performance ng tao, like when you're looking at performance, there's 2 categories. It's either influenced by environment or personal or behavior, right? And in under environment, are people know the expectations of performance? Are they getting feedback? Do they have access to the tools and resources they need? Does good performance get rewarded? But also important, equally important, is there consequence to poor performance? You guys would be surprised how much performance issues can improve just by a good rewards and consequence kind of system. Right? Sa personal naman po, you have knowledge and skills, capacity, so that's physical, psychological, emotional, mental capacity to perform the job. And are the motives and preferences of that employee fit also to the job and tasks that they're performing? O mga katropa, isang box lang po. There's only one box that can be addressed by learning. Right? And obviously, that's knowledge and skills. That's why Thomas Gilbert actually recommends we go from left to right in the top row. So feedback, expectations, tools, rewards, and consequences. And then when you go to the second row, right to left, right? Motives, na-check nyo na ba? Capacity, na-check nyo na ba? Then you check if it's really a knowledge and skills gap. And just to give 2 examples for this, no, when I learned this, the consultant facilitator, she was sharing. Remember, guys, nung araw sa Laguna, di ba ang dami mga factories of microchip processors?
Yep,
right?
Semicon.
Yes. So, there was, in one of those, right, there was a team that was performing really well, and the company wanted to replicate that performance sa ibang teams. And so they've tried everything, incentives, ganyan, review nila, chinek nila, all of that. Finally, they asked the consultant to come in and see, hey, how can we replicate this team's performance? Anong training ang kailangan? So they did the assessment first. And long story short, it turned out this team it's an extreme example, but it's maliliit yung fingers and hands nila. So capacity-wise, physically, there's no training that can make other teams match their performance simply because they were physically more capable of churning out because maliliit yung fingers and hands nila. So that's an extreme example. I'm gonna share one example when I first used this framework also. This is a common experience for us. Someone comes in, a department leader, they have a wish list, right? AM, my team, they really have competence gaps. Here, training, right? Ayan na yung menu.
Right.
Ayan, order na sila. And then, okay, fine, let's do an assessment first. And, when I went through all the boxes, the team knew how to do their job well. Harap, baliktad, patagilid, lahat. Kahit ipiring mo yata mata nila, they know how to do the job. They know the work around. And what surfaced is that they only receive feedback when they do something wrong. So as they perform their tasks, it's not to perform well, but it's to avoid getting negative feedback. And so I had to go back to the leader and say, I can run training on 5 things, but it's not going to solve your problem. So what you need to work on is a feedback mechanism within your team that works. And if I still had to do training, but at a much smaller scale and more targeted towards enhancing desired behaviors. So when you use a tool like this or similar to this, it really allows you to target factors that impact performance and reminds us, mga katropa, hindi lang po training ang solution. And thanks, June, for allowing me to share.
Alright, so maraming salamat. Yun ang kahalagahan ng tool, ano? Madali mong ma-analyze or makita kung ano yung talagang gagawin mo. So thank you for sharing that. I would consider that one of the tips and tricks of analyzing needs. Now, yung isang tanong
Assessing po
dito,
muna yun.
assessing muna, no? So ano naman yung mga tips natin to distinguish if a need should be addressed by training or non-training intervention using that Gilbert's or other framework, or especially based on your own experiences. So dito tatanungin natin sina kasamang Louie at Pearl, no? Ano mga tips nyo based on your actual experience to distinguish if a need should be addressed by training or non-training intervention? Louie
Ladies first ba, Pearl?
or
Muna?
Pearl? Yeah.
Sige, nakamadui.
Oh, sige.
Okay.
So, if it's a training need, alam mo, nandun doon sa isang box kanina ni Gilbert, di ba? So, if it's really knowledge and skills, it's a training need. If it's not knowledge and skills, it's a non-training need, no? Which already goes within the realms of OD. So maganda yun, AM, no? Hindi, kung hindi, tingin tayo dun sa ibang 5 boxes.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Louie. If I may just follow that up, is it possible that there are learning needs, pero yung solution is not necessarily training? In your experience?
Sa experience ko, June, posibleng kombinasyon. So marami tayong implement na multi-intervention strategy or solution, di ba?
Right.
We need to solve something, and usually performance issues is not just caused by one of those boxes, di ba?
Correct.
Right? A performance problem in any organization could be explained by 2 or even more. Okay? Kaya yun nga, bilang external consultant, no, tumitingin tayo dun sa ito lang ang kaya ko. Yes, especially outsource tayo. I can do this, but just provide recommendations so that they can do something about the non-training needs. That's within their control.
I see. So importante rin alam natin yung mga iba't ibang alternatives, no, that can address a particular learning need. So for example, coaching is not necessarily training, tama? But it addresses a learning need, no? Yun.
So ang learning need mo doon
is to gusto i-share, oh.
Yeah, Ed. And then after that, Pearl, yeah.
Louie, you were saying something?
Ang learning need mo doon is people need to know how to deliver right coaching.
Correct.
Diba? But as to making it a regular practice in an organization, madaming mga leaders nagsasabi, we want to make coaching a culture, or we want to be the coaching culture. It goes beyond just training people.
Exactly. All right.
Meron akong gusto i-share.
Ed.
Share screen.
Ayan, hindi tayo prepared.
Hindi ako prepared eh. Oo. So I think yung yung solution, just like in problem solving and decision making, first you have to understand the problem, eh. 'Di ba?
Correct.
So for example, kung ang issue there's a performance gap. Okay, saan ba nanggagaling? Ano ba yung cause? Is it a knowledge or a skills gap? Kulang sa knowledge, kulang sa skill. So kung pagdating sa knowledge, kulang ba sa conceptual knowledge, kulang ba sa theory? Kasi for that, you'll need 10% eh. Kailangan mo talaga ng training. Okay? Halimbawa, subject matter expert, gusto mong gawing trainer, eh wala namang alam tungkol sa concepts ng training. Hindi pwedeng i-coach yun. Kailangan ipadala mo talaga sa training. Ngayon, may yung knowledge and skills gap, more on skills. May knowledge, baka kumbaga hindi pa na-achieve yung mastery, some kind of directive coaching, no? So parang shadowing,
Mhm.
okay? Parang ganyan, ano? And then kung ang problema ay motivational, kasi ako kung motivational yung issue, hindi training ang solusyon. Could be coaching, okay? It can also be counseling kasi baka yung kanyang cause is because of an emotional or psychological baggage, di ba? And then if the person is not performing well because there's a systems gap or a management gap, so hindi training ang solusyon doon. Problem solving and decision making ang solusyon, which is to explore further. Meron bang kailangang i-adjust sa sistema, sa process, sa kind of support needed in order for the person to perform. So the basic answer is know the cause in
Mhm.
order to recognize what the right solution
Solution
is.
is. All right. Okay. Pearl, what
Si
about
Pearl,
you?
di pa sumagot.
Yeah.
I think we have to remind trainers yung 70-20-10 mix na sinasabi natin, no, of learning, that people learn through 70% interaction and maybe coaching, di ba? 70-20 yun eh, di ba? Tapos, and then, job practice, practicing the job itself. So, job experience. And then 20% is through coaching, mentoring, ganyan. And then, yung training, 10% lang yan. So, pag nag-identify tayo, I think ang kailangan, hindi lang, kasi nasanay tayo, training needs assessment. So, we always associate it to training. But, let's remind the trainers here that TNA or training needs assessment, merong mas malalim nun. Yung needs assessment or needs analysis, which goes beyond training. Kasi ito na yung pagtingin doon sa capability, capacity, competency needs ng buong organization. Diba? And it goes beyond yung training mismo. So, I think yun yung, kasi pag tinitingnan natin palaging, dahil TNA yan, kailangan training ang sagot, di ba? Pero hindi eh. Kaya usually, ako nung pag ginagawa ko to, I usually start off from making trainers. Dati kasi nagbigay ako ng trainers training sa Toshiba. Kasi naalala ko yung sinasabi ni AM, yung mga semicon. Dati yan ang mga, mga dati kasi yan ang mahilig outsource ng training. So, nagtuturo ako ng competency-based HR sa isang group ng mga semiconductor industries. And nung nagturo ako sa Toshiba, yung trainers, tinuruan ko muna sila, mag-identify muna kayo, mag-job analysis muna. So, job analysis, knowledge, skills, tas pati attitude, nakita ko kasi kanina sa chat, merong nagtatanong on attitude. So knowledge,
Yes,
skills,
si Miggy.
attitude, tapos based on sa knowledge, skills, attitude, maggawa ka ng competencies. Based on sa competencies, ano yung needs to develop yung competencies na yun. At doon nagsisimula yung sinasabi nating TNA na assessment and analysis.
All right. Yeah,
Pwedeng
thank you,
mag-add,
Pearl.
June.
Yes,
Dadagdag
please.
ako.
Pwedeng
Wala
pwede.
wala akong slide pero pwede namang i-google ng mga viewers to, no? Yung McKinsey 7S framework, pwede rin
Oh,
makatulong
yeah.
yan, di ba?
Yes,
Eh,
yes.
7S, bakit 7S? 7
Oo.
circles that all start with letter S. Isa doon ay
Oo.
skills. So kapag diniagnose mo ang organizational problem at nag-point out dun sa skills, yan, kayang-kaya ng training yan. Pero paano kung strategy problem? What if you're selling the wrong product to the wrong target market? Kahit anong pa sales training mo, hindi uubra yan.
Hindi obra. Oo,
Yung isa,
tama.
style of leadership, di ba? Yung pala, hindi training, kailangan pala change of leader. Ang kailangan, di ba?
Or
Change
culture.
management.
Oo.
Correct.
Oo.
Yung
Alright.
change mo in
Ano yun? Change the
management.
management? Ano?
Oh,
Change
change
the
the
management.
management.
Thank you. So that's also consistent with what EJ mentioned, no? Tutuwa ako kasi and we encourage this, no? So please share your thoughts so that we can all learn from each other, hindi lang sa mga nandito sa team, kundi sa bawat participants. Like what EJ mentioned, no? Other types of needs that we need to identify are organizational, performance, work environment, learning need, no? So depende. Si Owi din ang daming contribution dito, no? Owi is Roel Mariano, no? Past officer po ng PSTD at kasama member po ng ating membership engagement. Yan. Yep, Kevin. All right. So ngayon naman, since we talk about the practical tips on how to distinguish a need if it should be addressed by training or non-training, so we have what we call different levels of training needs analysis, whether that's an LNA or TNA. At the very least, there are 3 basic levels of analysis. One is strategic, so yun yung organizational needs. The other is functional, which is more on the operational or department. And the last one, it's at the job level or individual level TNA, no? So tanungin natin yung ating mga katropa, no? Sina Ed, Louie, Pearl at AM. Ano ba yung mga tips nila? Umpisa natin in doing a strategic level TNA. Okay? So when we want to do that, okay, we want to learn from your own experience. Ano yung mga practical tips na pwede naming baunin after this session when we do a strategic level TNA? Siguro, pisan natin, ano bang ibig sabihin pag sinabi nating strategic level TNA and how do we do that? All right.
Sir, ako.
Yes, Ed. Sir, talaga.
Isi-share uli ako.
Mm-mm.
Isi-share ako uli. Okay. Grabe, no? O, ayan. So, balance scorecard.
Strategy map.
Natigil na naman si
Nako.
Map or strategic. Hello. Nawawala ba ako?
Nawawala
Ulit,
ka.
oo.
Yep. Welcome back.
Nawawala ako. Sorry. Ayan. Oo. Pero kita ba yung aking slide? Kita naman, ano?
Ayan.
Okay. So, balance scorecard. Pag tinignan mo pag sinundan mo yung strategy map ng yung organization, ano ba yung financial goals, no, financial objectives ng organization? And then you look at the customer perspective. Ano ba yung kailangan nating ma-achieve for the customers in order to realize our financial goals? So, cause and effect siya, di ba? Hanggang sa makarating ka doon sa what are the goals for internal business process? Ano ba yung gusto natin mangyari? Umangat ba yung ating production? Magkaroon ba ng mas strengthen ba yung ating engagement with our customers? Mag-improve yung product quality? Doon sa learning and growth, the basic question is what do we need to learn? What do we need to develop? What kind of competencies and capacities do we need to develop in order to deliver on all these other strategic objectives? So yun yung importanteng tanong. For example, if marami ngayon mga companies are looking at digitization and AI. Ngayon, kung kasama sa strategic initiative mo yung digitization, automation, AI, dati manual lahat yung system ninyo. Ano ngayon yung mga learning and development needs ng mga tao, especially those who will be involved in these things? so that they can contribute to the realization of the objective. So yan yung para sa akin yung strategic approach, no, or aligning your TNA with your organization's strategic objective.
All right, thank you, Ed. What about the others? What are your practical tips based on your experience in doing strategic level TNA?
Sir, ako,
Yes,
susuguntahan ko
please.
si Ed, no? Sa akin, kung sisimplihan natin, tanungin natin. Kasi strategic, no? As L&D professionals, and no matter how high they are in the hierarchy compared to us, let's make sure that we get an audience, no? With the top or senior management, and just ask questions such as, what are the drivers, no? What is the background? What is the context, no, of this training? And more often than not, ang sagot babagsak doon sa sinasabi ni Ed, no? Do we want growth? Yes. How do we compete? No. For example, one of my clients, no, that's very heavy on service orientation and service training last 2022. Sabi nila, hindi kasi kami bagong hotel, Louis. We are a 30 plus years old hotel. And there are a lot of new properties in the area. So the strategy is to really strengthen our service and then our product offerings. Now, the Sanaha moment, that's why they need the individual skills, no, to step up as well.
Okay, thank you, Louis. AM or Pearl?
I'm gonna go back to something, I think it was Ed na nag-raise no. Ang sinasabi nga lagi, pag maganda yung performance review, performance management system, automatic, para siyang readily available information na at the organizational level of, you know, what the actual needs are, the different needs. So needs assessment na siya automatic. Again, hindi siya generic. Kung maganda yung pagkakasetup niya, there will still be some questions or elements that will pertain to organizational needs. So that's just to add to what Ed and Louis have already shared. So
Right,
dapat
thank you, AM.
matino ang PMS.
Dapat matino. And what about your experience, Pearl?
Well, kami, aside from the strategic plan, syempre, tinitingnan naman yung strategic plan, i-review yan every year, di ba? But one thing that we also emphasize is looking back at the core values of the company. Yung, kasi hindi lang yan strategy, but also the vision, mission, strategies, and goals, di ba, of the company. So, kasama dito yung values. So, when you look at the training needs of a company, you also have to look at its vision, mission, and values. What are the learning needs based on how do you strengthen the understanding of your employees of the vision, mission, and values of the company?
All right, simple, no? Pero very useful. If I may share naman, there are several models and frameworks na pwedeng mag-guide sa atin. I'm not sure if you've heard about the dual transformation framework. Dual transformation is A, B, and C. Let me just share one screen. Yan. Hindi po ito original. It's actually borrowed from the dynamic capability model, and then one consulting company from abroad repackaged it, and then it was remodeled as dual transformation model. Ang kagandahan nito is A, B, and C, yun lang, no? So there are business transformations that are happening on, let's say, new business models. Where do you grow outside of your existing business? And then yung B naman, or transformation A is in your existing, and then transformation B is where do you grow in addition to your existing, right? Saan papasok si strategic learning needs? Doon kay C, right? So what are the competencies or capabilities that would give you an advantage or that would enable both transformation A and B? So in short, using this simple model, maraming pwedeng maging variation. So even in a columnar setting, if you're able to identify your strategies, no, as a business, strategy 1, 2, and 3. So the next question is, for us to execute these strategies, what capabilities do we need to be good at? right? And in these capabilities, dun papasok si competency. Which one we are already good at, so let's continue. Which one we should or we still need to be good at. In short, in terms of competency, we still need to improve on these competencies, right? So by doing that kind of analysis, napakadali, it's simple and it's practical because you're able to identify your high level, strategic level competencies. So the way we are doing that in our consulting company naman, of course, hindi lang ganun kasimple yon kapag talagang you deep dive, no? So doon papasok syempre yung conversations with the top management, nagkakaroon ng interview, nagkakaroon ng analysis of how they have implemented the previous strategies. But at the end of the day, it's strategic level TNA, it's aligning your understanding of what capabilities your company needs to be good at to compete and to execute whatever strategy. So for example, isang strategy is for us to go into digital transformation. As a trainer, by logic, so one of the capabilities therefore has something to do or related to competencies that would support digital transformation. Kumusta ba ang digital mastery? Right? So that's an example. Agile is very much associated with digital. Kumusta yung agile competencies or agile leadership? So by that kind of analysis, you can simplify and even standardize the way you look at strategic level competency. Now, pagdating naman sa mga department level or operational, no? So strategic is the whole company at large, no? And that's where we support. Pagdating sa department, may I ask our fellow trainers here, no? Pareho lang ba yon yung approach na yon, or are there other tips and tricks pagdating naman sa pag-analyze ng training needs specific to a particular function or department, whether that is HR, finance, sales? Paano nyo ginagawa or ginawa yung pag-analyze ng kanilang needs as a department?
Ako share ko lang. Ang ginawa namin actually first is develop the competencies per department. So meron kaming finance competencies, di ba? Aside from the core, meron tayo yung functional competencies. So HR, IT, production operations, mga ganyan. Tapos kung sino pa sa operations yung kailangan. And then after we've developed that, then we develop learning maps. For each of those competencies, meron kaming ginawa na learning maps. So, kunyari, ang function mo ay nasa HR ka. So, kunyari, ano pa yon? Yung competencies pa yon, may different levels yun, depende kung nasaan ka sa HR, di ba? Pero meron kang mga generic competencies across HR. So kung ano man yung HR competencies mo, may learning maps for each of those competencies. So for example, you're developing the competency of, let's say, problem solving and decision making. So kung yun yung competency na dine-develop mo, meron na kaming map ng ano yung kailangan nila when it comes to coaching. So, ginawa na namin ng mix nung 70-20-10. So, ano yung job experiences? At doon nga pumasok yung, remember, in one of our previous session, I showed the experience navigator. So, pumasok yung experiences, tapos pasok yung, tapos meron kaming portion doon on coaching and mentoring. Tapos merong training, actual training courses to develop that competency based on our LMS, and also yung mga ino-offer na training ng training department. Tapos meron pang books kasi para and articles, may mga ganyan. Para yung isang manager, kaya niyang tingnan, oh, ito yung tao ko, ito yung learning map. Ano yung kulang based dun sa learning map? Diba? Tapos ano rin yung magagawa ko as a supervisor para magawa itong mga nakalagay dito sa learning maps.
I see. All right. So yung umpisa noon, it's having a more or less standardized functional competency.
Yeah.
No? Para year on year, kung may pagbabago man, hindi na kailangang reinvent the wheel or start from scratch all over again, no? And then hanggang sa makababa down to the individual, no? Pero ang simula noon, mayroon kang functional level competencies. Very nice, no? What about the others, no?
Pearl, naka-mute ka.
Si Pearl nagsasalita pa ata.
Ay, sorry.
Naka-mute na naman.
Ayan.
You wanna add
Naririnig-
something, Pearl? Or
Naririnig niyo na ba ako?
yeah, we can hear you. You wanna add
Ayan.
something?
Hindi, sinabi ko lang na, di ba yung sabi nga natin may learning maps, that
Yes.
feeds into the IDPs.
IDPs.
Parang pag
oo,
nag-IDP
oo.
ka, individual development plan, nakatuon dun sa learning maps.
Ayun. So yun yung connect naman from the operational or functional level down to the individual. Okay, very good, no? What about our other partners
May-
here? Louis,
okay.
Ed.
Ako meron
Ed.
akong medyo broader na sagot and
Mhm,
hopefully tatamaan yung tanong ni Jerry.
mhm.
Merong mahabang tanong si Jerry kasi dito. So lalahatin ko na, no? Let me just, okay bang medyo nagluloko yung aking internet connection but ayan. Can you see it? All right. So yung basic na TNA flow na sinusunod ko whenever I work with clients is we first look at the scope of the TNA. Is it going to be organizational? Is it because of the changes that are happening in the organization? Is it a demonstrated, meaning performance-based needs, no, or felt need? Ano yung you want to find out what exactly people feel they lack in order to perform, and based on that you pick your tools. Okay, kasi maraming pwedeng focus group discussion, pwedeng survey. Kung maayos ang inyong performance appraisal, magandang tool yun. That's me advocating for please don't use generic performance appraisal tools. They're not
Amen.
useful for TNA. Yung tanong ni Jerry, tingin ko masasagot ng IDP na yung individual development plans ng mga tao as a result of their, whether it's coming from a competency assessment or the performance appraisal. Kung may individual development plan yung mga tao, you should mine that for data. Organizational strategy analysis, task analysis, especially task analysis is particularly important if you're trying to design a functional training for a particular function or task. And then you mine all your you mine your data, no, for information for training needs na makapaglalabas ng learning needs, ng learning objectives, at magbabase din doon yung learning and development plan and strategy. Kasi parang ang intindi ko doon sa tanong ni Jerry, please correct me if I'm wrong, sir. Minsan hindi open yung tao doon sa intervention na binibigay sa kanya, no?
Right.
Wala siyang buy-in, 'di ba? So maganda na pagkatapos ilabas ito yung isang ginagawa namin, especially with one of our clients now, is pagkatapos ng needs assessment ay gumagawa kami ng employee profile. Then the manager and the employee have a conversation about how they want to address it. It might not be training at all. It might be exposure to a particular task. It could be a conversation, a meaningful conversation between the manager and the employee. But when there's a shared buy-in doon sa manager at saka sa employee, doon sa recognition ng need at saka yung acceptable intervention, mas madali siyang i-implement at i-monitor and evaluate kasi may buy-in yung dalawang partido at the onset. Ayun.
June,
Right.
Ed, dagdag ako dun
Yes, please.
sa tanong ni Jerry kasi na-encounter ko to sa isang coaching and mentoring program, no? So kung ang tanong ay share a method, ginagamit ko yung interview method, no, na ang respondent natin ay yung mga immediate managers, no, ng mga target participants. At ang mga tanong ko ay dalawang tanong ko diyan expressed and observed mindsets, no? ano yung expressed mindset, yung language na ang sagot sa akin ang sabi daw ng mga supervisors at managers, why the need to coach, no, when I will end up doing the task anyway, no? So yun, di ba? Yun, malinaw na mindset yun. Yun namang observed mindset ay hindi naman sinasabi, no? Pero nakikita, especially for the managers who really work with their direct reports, nakikita nila through the non-verbals. So yun ang isang pwede nating gawin. No? Tama nga, no? It depends on the questions that you ask. Survey is not a bad, wrong TNA method. It is a good method, but you have to ask the right questions.
All right. So in short, Louie, hindi enough yung mga instruments, no? Talagang makakatulong dito yung pag-filter using validating interviews, no? Doon mo talaga malalaman.
O minsan nag-upward interview o survey. Doon lumalabas yung mga mindsets, no? Yung mga employees, they will use the survey to really even quote, di ba? They will quote their managers, no? Ito po ang sabi ni manager. And those quoted language already reveal the mindsets.
Mindset. All
That
right.
becomes a blocker to knowledge.
Na sometimes hindi nila madaling mailabas kung printed, no? Yung mga
Correct.
survey. All
Correct.
right. Okay. So anyone else on the same question about how do you do operational or functional level TNA?
May question si Manu. Manu has a, who should be responsible in individual learning needs? Sorry, tumalo na siya sa individual.
Oh, individual
Ayan.
learning needs. Oh.
Is it
We will answer
HR?
that later on. We will answer that because our next question is on the individual, right? But what you can notice from our line of questionings is that there's a lot of emphasis before on the individual training needs analysis. That's where it came from, no? So ang ginawa natin is top down. First at the organizational level, right? So you have business strategies and business goals, what capabilities are needed, and then doon papasok si TNA at the organizational level. At the department level, nakita natin may konting kaibahan because now the competencies expected of that department to function, which you call functional TNA or functional competency, can be your reference or tool to determine which of these functional competencies you are probably strong or you are still requiring you can say an improvement. Then ibabangga yon doon sa institutional or organizational requirements para naman yung na-identify is still something that supports the overall strategy, right? So now punta na tayo sa individual. Okay? So sa individual, ano naman yung mga kaibahang techniques, no? So mayroon na tayong napag-usapan about strategic level, mayroon na tayong napag-usapang competency base. Pag ang dinidetermine natin is the training needs analysis of the individuals, no? From that perspective, what are the tools, tips, and tricks that we can pass on to our audience today, no?
So
And for the
sobrang-
others, you can also chat and share your insights or ideas here. So we can start with Manu, right? So the question of Manu is, AM, help me out. What was the question of Manu?
Yes. Sino ba? Sino? Who is responsible for individual learning needs? Is it HR training or department head? Because usually, and this is something we've all experienced, department heads will point to the training department for that they're responsible for TNA. Although, you know, when it's a talent development team, usually it's guided, it's consultative almost.
Magandang tanong ito.
Yes.
Oo.
So who's responsible?
Oo. So dito masasagot yung, o bakit hindi ka natuto? Eh, walang ibinigay na training needs sa akin eh. Walang pa-training ang company, no? Yung mga ganun. So who is ultimately responsible? Who would like to answer that?
Si Louie may magandang ano dyan eh. Louie, di ba? Yan. Ano yung sa org, ano yung sa team, pero ultimately.
But kung ang tanong, responsible. Tama?
Responsible, yes.
Irarasin natin yan. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng responsible? Who should be doing it? Correct? Para sa akin, the manager should be doing it. Because sabi nga ni Ed kanina, that's part of the individual development plan, which is one of the developmental responsibilities of a manager. But of course, it's done with partnership with the employee, and of course with partnership, consultation, and with the advisory function with HR and L&D. Agree ba kayo doon?
100%. Ayan. Mga katropa. Ayan.
Mga katropa, ako I agree, and there is an extension to that. It's a challenge on how do you democratize learning in the sense na you make people feel responsible for their own learning.
Yes.
Right? Pero wishlist yun, di ba? Alam natin sa totoong buhay, hindi ganon kadali yon. And for that to happen, managers have to take both the responsibility and accountability for managing the individual learning of their people. So doon naman papasok yung sinabi ni Louie.
Mabilis na dagdag, yun ay kung knowledgeable ang manager sa tamang IDP.
Tama.
Kung hindi knowledgeable ang manager sa tamang IDP, ang responsible ngayon doon si L&D at saka
L&D
si
or
HR.
HR.
Until
That
such
means-
time that the manager is already equipped and empowered to do so.
Ayun. So if I got that right, Louie, what you're saying is yung standards and the framework, the process, that's the responsibility of HR or L&D, and then i-execute naman yan ng mga managers. And then eventually, as an individual, I am accountable and responsible for my own learning. Buhay ko ito eh, di ba? Yeah, but I need your support, syempre, if you're my manager. What about the others, Ed, Pearl?
Ako, pasensya na kayo na luluko yung aking internet. I think somebody has to be ultimately accountable for all. And I think that's HR or L&D na to make sure that there is a working system to address the learning and development needs of the employees. Kasi yung sinasabi ni Louie na ang assumption natin dapat marunong yung mga managers. Hindi lang marunong, merong ownership. So yung championing ng HR and L&D dito sa buong process ng training needs analysis is very important. Kasi yung quality ng sagot ng mga managers, yung quality ng sagot ng mga employees do sa whatever training needs analysis tools that you're going to provide is is dependent on how they appreciate and understand the process.
I see.
Diba? So yun.
All right. So what you're saying is that as a process, HR or L&D is the one responsible. But as a leadership responsibility, managers naman are the ones responsible as far as their teams are concerned. Okay, napagtatagpi-tagpi na natin. What about you, Pearl?
Yan, sorry. I think we also have to look at this in the context of the entire talent development process. Hindi lang L&D kasi yung L&D part lang yun. Tingnan mo rin yung buong talent development process ng buong kumpanya. Which means, look at the succession planning, di ba? Ano yung kailangan? So, yung mga nilagay natin na ready laters, mga ganyan. Ready now eh. So, pwede mo nang i-promote yan. So, paano yung mga ready laters? Ready laters, ready in 1 to 3 years. So, ano yung development plan to make sure that the ready laters are ready now when the time comes? Diba? So, kailangan mag-work together yung talent development team mo at yung manager, yung superiors na nagsabing, oh, ito si employee A, ready later siya in 2 years or in 1 year. So ano yung magiging development plan nung successors mo para pagdating ng 2 years, ready now na sila. So kasama yon, di ba? And of course, we also talk about career planning, di ba? Ano ba yung mga career objectives ng mga employees natin? Kasi doon din magtitingin yung manager. Ito pala ang gusto nung tao ko. Gusto niyang maging manager in how many years? So how do I develop that employee so that motivated siya to stay in the company because nakikita niyang nagmo-move yung career niya. So paano yun? Kailangan nakatahi yun sa individual development plan. So all these processes ng talent development, di ba, dapat nagtatahi-tahi siya. And that includes performance management, di ba? So lahat yun nagtatahi to develop that IDP. Aanuin mo lang, ipipacing mo yung IDP niya. Ano yung matututunan or dapat kasama sa IDP niya for this year? Kaya kami, sa part ng performance management process namin, meron kaming tinatawag na IDPs and IDGs, Individual Development Goals and Individual Development Plans. The Individual Development Goals lead, terminology lang namin yon. Nilalagay namin sa performance management system. IDGs are directly related to the goals and objectives for that year. So kung kunyari gusto kong kailangan kong gawin ito based on the goals and objectives, ano naman yung kasamang training or training needs para ma-accomplish yung goals and objectives ko for the year. Meron din namang IDP, which means development. Ito yung development na nakatie-in sa career, sa succession plan, and even yung mga promotion na gusto ko within the year. So, yun yung buong performance management process.
Ayun. All right. And down to the last question, but this question is the one that is easy to digest but difficult to answer. How do you decide which training would be prioritized in actual experience ninyo, no? Kasi from the point of view of employees, all the IDPs, all of the training, binigyan mo ako ng pagkakataon na identify yung aking individual development plan. Tapos nilagay ko doon, give me training like this or like that. And we have, let's say, 5,000 employees. Make that 10,000 or even 1,000. So naturally, hindi lahat yun mababudgetan at mapaprioritize ng lahat, no? Especially if you are, if your budget is not that high. So paano yung practical na prioritize kung aling training needs ang dapat na unahin? Yan, based on your experience.
Sige, Ed.
Yeah, Ed.
Okay. Hindi ko alam kung gaano kaliwanag yung aking. Okay pa ba yung aking internet?
Maliwanag. Ayan.
Okay,
Yeah,
sige.
yeah, it's clear.
Magkukwento ako, merong isang kumpanya, we did the competency gaps assessment company-wide, no? Competency gaps assessment. And we were able to identify.
Yan, napuputol ka na, Ed.
Competency
Putol na
gaps.
si Ed.
Yep. All right, welcome back.
Si Ed, internet gaps.
Yeah, may internet gap.
Correct.
Ed.
Ayan.
All
Sige,
right.
balikan
Sige.
si Ed.
Balikan ka namin.
Okay,
Ayan.
sige,
Ayan,
sige.
Yeah, okay. You're now clear. Sige.
Okay, so may isang company, almost 2,000 competency gaps ang meron
wow.
sila. And they only have 2 million pesos in training and development budget.
Okay.
Okay. So the question now is, how do we prioritize? You come up with the prioritization criteria. Di ba? You look at your organization's strategic priorities. And then you ask yourself, think outside the box. Yung mga hindi ma-address ng formal training. Baka ang kailangan doon ay ibang approach, hindi training.
Yun.
Pero development pa rin.
Oo, like yung 70-20-10 na sinabi ni Pearl, no?
Oo. Yung talagang i-prioritize mo yung kailangan talagang dalhin sa training. Yung ibang may iba namang approach, di ibang approach ang gamitin mo, hindi training.
Okay, so that means mas maganda kung mayroon kang mas formalized or mas structured na pamamaraan on how to do a prioritization. Ito ba yung parang in its simplified format, parang capability and impact, ano? Do you have the capability or the resources on this? And then high ba yung impact? Parang ganun, ano? Or there could be other variants.
Meron akong tatlong ginagamit. Tatlo. Yung seriousness nung need, yung
Seriousness. Urgency.
urgency, meaning kailangan na bang ngayon yung
Yes,
training.
yes.
And then yung growth potential would be, if we do not address the training need, will the situation worsen?
Ayun.
SUG.
SUG.
Seriousness, urgency.
Ayun.
Urgency and growth potential.
Ayun, that's very practical tip. Na-imagine ko na yung
Ah.
mga columns. Di ba? High, medium, low. Yeah, very good. What about the others? Thank you, Ed. Your
Ako,
practical tips.
ako sa project
Louie.
prioritization, if you will now treat every learning need as a training project, then alam natin yung impact and effort matrix,
Yes,
di ba?
yes.
High impact, low effort, high effort. Siyempre ayaw natin dun sa high effort pero low impact. Di natin gagawin yon. Tama? Unahin
tama.
natin yung high impact, low effort. Di ba? Na projects.
Ayun.
No?
And Louis, if I may clarify, yung impact dito, it's not only impact on the individual growth, no? Kundi impact din sa department or maaring kung strategic level ito, impact sa buong strategy. Tama ba?
Achievement of the learning objectives. Tama ka. Individual, impact on operational, and then strategic.
Strategic.
Levels.
Alright. Yan, naglalabasan na yun. Na-imagine nyo na siguro kung ano yung magiging itsura noon, no? So this is what we mean by practical tools and tips, no? What about per AM? Mayroon bang ibang tools and tips or templates dyan?
In our line of business, no, it's pretty easy kasi it's a lot of it is metric based. So pag may nagsusumigaw na metric dyan na then you do your needs assessment, then you do your needs analysis. Then you know immediately what to focus on. Minsan it stares at you in the face. So I'm just gonna share a slide from sharing results of a needs assessment in one company, no. Ang core business po ay payroll. So pag tinignan nyo to, something like this na kitang-kita mo na kagad, anong uunahin mo, di ba?
Yung namumula.
Correct. So again, another example of why it's critical to do a proper needs assessment and needs analysis. It does make the identification and prioritization simpler for us sometimes.
Ayun. So in short, from having a framework and then converting that into a more data-driven approach, no? Para pag tinignan mo, that the framework allows you to, you can say, organize your data. And then once you have the data, mas madaling mapag-usapan kung ano yung need. Kasi yun nga, kita mo na kaagad eh. Doon pa lang sa kulay.
Opo.
Very
Correct.
good.
More than one source talaga po dapat yung kinukuhanan natin ng information, both qualitative and quantitative.
Alright. Okay. So, may magandang kwan dito. Kaya importante na mabenta ang program kay CFO. I'd like to touch on that quickly. I know it's 7:03, no? Kasi yun yung aking practical experience naman na kahit na ano ang pagkakaganda-ganda, kahit napaka data-driven, if your relationship and your influence over the CFO and much more to the president, medyo negative or kulang sila ng tiwala, or maybe you're coming off from negative performance or negative results, then mahirap, no? Because nagkakaroon na ng kumbaga biases and these biases are realities that we have to deal with. So having your prioritization is one thing, but selling that priorities is another one. So our practical advice there is develop your credibility and your relationship with the top management, so that whatever data that you have, so data plus your credibility, two things speaking for themselves and they complement with each other.
Parang
Ayan.
episode po yan. Parang
Oo nga.
sariling episode yan.
Oo. Bitin ang ang 1 hour definitely, no? So buti na lang this is not the end, and in fact for those who want to really deep dive on doing analysis, either of training needs, and yung may isa pang dulo ng analysis, analyzing the results, or what we call evaluating results doon sa ating ADDIE. Mayroon talaga tayong formal training course on that from PSTD. No? So as much as we would like to read everyone here, I'd like to encourage everyone na tignan nyo rin while we are having our last minute discussion. Marami pong mga ideas and insights coming from the different members of our participants here. No? And talking about how do we now go deep into this, no? Mayroon tayong actually certified analyst program. And Ed would like to touch more on this. So Ed, if you can talk to us more about the certified analyst, no?
Ayan. So as some of you probably know, ang PSTD may master certification program. Marami po yan, certified analyst, certified facilitator, certified manager, and then master trainer pag na-certify kayo doon sa lahat ng yon, ano. And what you're seeing here on screen is the competency dictionary for certified analyst. Para po tayo ma-certify as a practitioner, kailangan po nating magpakita ng evidence on this, itong nasa level 3, no, advanced. Develop plans and tools for data gathering analysis, prepare training needs analysis report, prepare training needs analysis, at kasama po diyan yung pag-present ng prepare training needs analysis plan, and actually dapat tanggalin na yung or dito, training evaluation plan, kasi dapat yung output ng TNA kasama yung how you're going to measure the success of the objectives identified through the TNA. And then you should be able to present evaluation results and recommend interventions to key stakeholders. Kung kayo po sa ngayon in your organization ay meron na kayong practice na pasok itong mga ito, abay pwede na po kayong magpa-certify. Kung kayo naman gusto nyo pang lumalim yung inyong natututunan, just like what June said, is mag-enroll po kayo sa mga programa ng PSTD on training needs analysis and 4-level training evaluation, and you will be provided with all the tools that you need in order to get the certification. Yung unang level of certification is knowledge level 1 certification. Kailangan yung pasahan yung mga exams do sa training. And then yung level 2 is a practitioner certification, meaning pinractice ninyo, in-apply nyo yung natutunan, at meron kayong evidence. So I encourage everyone, I invite you to explore this. As you see, this is a very important skill to have if you are managing the L&D function in your organization. Okay, June?
All right, thank you, Ed. And even before the certification, we also have our preparatory courses on TNA. And I'm also one of the facilitators there. Ang kaibahan nga lang with how PSTD does it, no? So there is already a program for that online. So you take that with the assessment. Natutunan mo na by doing that LXP, no? Kung paano gumawa ng training needs analysis plan. So there's planning. Paano gumawa ng actual TNA. And then paano mo ito ipipresent in a form of a report. So there is a TNA report. And then during the actual training, we immerse the participants into actually doing it and validating their output. And then they will do it. They will submit another round of outputs. And then the facilitators will review and comments these outputs. All of that happening within the learning experience portal of PSTD. Yan. So yun yung deep dive na tinatawag namin. All right. So
May tanong yata si
Yeah.
Miggy kay
sige nga,
Ed,
Miggy, ang ating suki.
yung where can we find that rubric yung sa certified analyst?
Actually, mada-download yung buong yung buong guide
Sa
on how to
website.
get certified sa website. Downloadable siya. Mm.
Ang tanong lang, saan sa website?
Hanapin niyo yung Master Trainer Certification.
Yan. Master
Oo
Trainer
nga naman.
Certification. So we encourage everyone to take the courses and to take the certification. Medyo mahirap lang sa totoong buhay kasi output-based po siya or portfolio-driven. Kasi ang tingin po namin, the only way you can really get certified is for your output to be reviewed by a panel of experts so that you have a sense of pride to your certification. So, yun yung kaibahan lang. But once you get certified, you knew you are really certified in that skill set. Pinasa mo talaga. Okay. So, as we said, Bitin, this is, we hope that the practical tips, tools, and templates that we have provided you are more than enough and sulit doon sa ating 1 hour or more than 1 hour. Right? So, maraming salamat po sa inyong
Group picture.
pagpipicture sa ngayon. So,
Baka
yeah,
makalimutan mo.
please show yourselves. So, magpa-picture po tayo. Group of picture. Yan, si Nelson.
At ako,
kita ko
suggestion
kagad.
ko sa kanila, mga katropa, no? Suggestion ko kung may mga tanong kayo, pumunta kayo sa Facebook ng PSTD.
Oh yes, please.
Pag tanong kayo doon, sasagot kami. Tapos
Yeah.
mas marami pang makikinabang sa ating chatting sa FB.
Exactly. You can tag us, no? Tag nyo. At Louie, at June Roy. Any one of us here, or all of us for that matter.
At
All right.
po sa mga hindi pa member, ay mag-member.
Sige, please.
Road to 1,000.
Okay.
Yan, so class photo please.
Pa-open ng
Video.
picture. Pa-open ng camera ninyo. So that makita sa group picture.
Ano, thumbs up muna.
Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up.
Okay, one.
Teka, magano pa?
Okay, one.
Kanang kamay.
Three. Hold on, medyo marami yung panel.
Teka lang, Okay na.
Okay.
Salamat mga katropa.
Salamat.
See you
Okay,
next
salamat.
week.
Bigyan na
See
naman
you.
tayo.
Okay. See you sa susunod na
Usapang
Usapang
Training
at iba pa.
Iba pa.
Training
Bye.
design next week. Training design. Training design. See you next week.